So, how did your poster develop from the first draft to where it is now?
So the first draft we made of the poster, or I made of my poster, was just literally just an image, just a screenshot from the film itself. Actually, no, the first one was actually online images. It was like a mock poster to decide what kind of layout we wanted, and it used a lot of complicated dissolves and multiply layers over it, which made it very confusing. I think a lot of the kind of like peer review I got from everyone in class said it was just really confusing. So on the second draft, I kind of scrapped that. Thought, okay, if that's too much on the eye, if that's too much going on, then we'll just use a single image. So I took a single screen grab from the film itself, and then I just put text over the front of it, and then that was a bit too boring. Obviously, once I'd done my research after that, I realised that there's a lot more at play with the posters than just an image and text. So once looking at things like Sightseers and other posters, you can kind of get a feel for the way that they're portraying their film through the stills, because obviously it's harder to portray a moving film through just a set of still images and colours and stuff. So you've got to be careful, or I was making sure I was being careful with the colours I was using, the layout of it, so that the feel and the atmosphere of the poster related appropriately the atmosphere of the film, because obviously they've got a match. It comes as one big brand. So after that other draft, I realised that we needed to do a bit more design work on it. It needed to be a bit more complicated and a bit more tailored for our film specifically. So actually, there's actually been some design and thought behind all the reasons and all the movements of the images and cuts and stuff and so forth. But then obviously had to make sure it wasn't being more confusing than the first poster. But from where it started to where it was now, it's just a general process of getting to grips with what works, what doesn't, and then kind of narrowing it down to your field and what your film is about, and kind of honing in on that and making it with your poster and not going over the boundaries that you've obviously learned from the other two drafts that went wrong.
What did your poster have to include intensities of contents?
What stuff it needed on it?
What needed on it to make it a short film poster?
So you have to, with posters, especially for short films, they're more like short films are normally like calling cards for young directors who are trying to make it and want to make big films and make feature-length films. So they use their short films as almost like what's the word? I'm not sure. There's almost like this is what I can do, like the big showcase of their abilities, just to say, if I can do this in 5 minutes, what do you reckon I can do it in like an hour, kind of thing. And so you've got to be careful when making the poster, because there are specific conventions of a short film poster you can't break. Things like having massive well-known production companies. Obviously you've not been funded by one, so obviously that's not something that you would have behind you, not something backing you. And obviously no big massive stars, because there's no huge stars in your cast. But there are them conventions and them kind of styles that you can't break when making the short film poster, because if you do, you'll end up branching into feature-length film, and they have different audiences. I mean, like if you're going into a film expecting an hour and a half and you get 5 minutes, you're always going to be disappointed. So you've got to let the audience know before they even see the film that they should watch your film, but that it is a short film. But in terms of contents, it needed things like production companies. So the company that we went for, which is Binocular Studios, to show that you've obviously got some backing and there's a team and some professionalism within the film itself. You need a website as branding in it as a whole. So when directors and stuff like that and people who are looking to get in contact with you to either make films or have you make films for them, they can go onto the website, and there's normally going to be like a show reel of all your work, and they can look through that, source what you're about, what kind of style you have, and whether they want to use you as director or whatnot, or wherever they want to put you, if they want to put you anywhere. They also needed things like reviews from magazines and stuff to show that obviously it's a film to be taken seriously. So we have a Little White Lies review on our magazine, which is perfect because the company itself, Little White Lies, is a film review magazine. So all the demographic of that that magazine itself and the psychographic and all those people that are reading that are our audience. They are the people we're trying to get to, and the people who want to watch our film because we know they would enjoy it. And so a good review from Little White Lies just kind of entices anyone who sees the poster. So you look at it and you go, okay, I can understand that's an established magazine, good with their films. If they rate this film, if they think it's good and well put together, I should have a look at it and give it a go as well. It needed things like the billings, just the normal typical aspects of making a film. So the billings, to give credits to everyone that was in the film and the roles that everyone did, so that anyone looking at the poster could go, okay, so I like the way this is directed, I want to use Sam or whatever, and I like the way this is acted, so I want to use Tom or whatever it may be. So the billings are important in that respect. Font style has to be the same throughout your whole film, because you're trying to sell the film as like a package, like a big meal deal of short film, so to speak, in that the font matches the poster matches the film itself to kind of like converge it all into one big package. So you have to be careful with what you're using, something that will look nice and clean like a sans serif font on a poster, but that will also work with the conventions within your film. We made sure that we were doing things like, when we were looking at the poster, so obviously because ours is a comedy, we have to make sure that there are some comedic aspects, so the images we used were like professionally shot, they were still images, so they weren't screen grabs off the computer, so they were full res and everything. We could play with them how and when we wanted. And because we had so many different angles, we were allowed to play around with what we found funniest, and what we found funniest to do was to have I found funniest was to have a 3-image separator kind of thing, a 3-image divide of the process that he goes through throughout the whole film. So obviously he goes in as the interview comes out, fails, talks to Harry about it, and then they kind of like do the whole process again. So that kind of live, die, repeat kind of situation going on, like Groundhog Day, but with obviously these interviews. So in order to create comedy, we used images that would create comedy through like obviously they're like, because they feel almost out of place because they're so weird, like the weird emotions the characters show, which is which would create comedy within the audience looking at the poster, as well as sorry, cut out there. As I was saying, so it goes from, it's got like this, that deeper meaning within the poster and the kind of serious undertones, because our film is not just about the comedy aspect and him messing up interviews, it's also about the journey he's going on and the fact that he's trying to find a job that will accept him for him, rather than just assume he's obviously a bit out there and a bit wacky, until eventually he does find, which we see with that more creative company, he does find the company that is right for him, that accepts him. We have things like Sundance Film Festival stamps on our poster, just shows that they've been like, it gives a sense of realism and a sense of like, it's like the review, when you have the review and it sends out a message saying it's been looked at by these professional people, they agree with it, they like it, they've analysed it, they've done all you could do to it, and they've still come out saying it's good. And it's to say that Sundance is almost like it's authenticated by Sundance. They like this. This is something that they would like to put their name on, and something that they appreciate. And it shows things like nominations. A lot of the time with Sundance, that's where a lot of young filmmakers go to become bigger directors and get scouted by feature-length film producers and stuff. And so that shows also maybe a potential for nominations within the film category in Sundance. So you could have been that we were nominated for next year's Sundance to be best shot film or something like that, anything like that. And that also again shows a sense of professionalism and a sense of ability within our scope, and obviously entices the audience, which is in the end the main goal for the poster, which is to entice the audience to watch the film, share the film, and enjoy the film. And obviously see that whole market as a brand, because that's what it is. It's one big brand of film that they want. It's all of us just trying to get you to watch the film, enjoy the film, and give feedback to us so we can improve and or become feature-length film makers and so forth and such. that's essentially the majority of it. Shot types on that poster were clear. You have close-ups to show the intensity within the film. In some scenes you have a long distance shot to show the setting, which you can see isn't very serious, which creates a bit of comedy, especially with the facial expressions within the characters. They create a bit of incongruous humour amongst the audience when they're looking at the poster, which again kind of gives them a vibe for the genre of the film, whether that's something they would enjoy. They then go down and see the Sundance Film Festival, the review, and that again brings them in to want to watch it, and then kind of that's it. And once they're enticed, which is what the aim of the poster is to do, and to create that brand, that's it, they can watch that then. Again, so Tom, do you want to continue from your stuff?
So what are the differences between the poster for a feature-length film and a poster for a short film?
Well, obviously things like budget have a big effect on the poster you make and the audience you're appealing to, demographic, and so the variety of, for instance, a variety of reviews you can have is a much higher scope. They have, obviously, a feature-length film will have Guardian newspaper, New York Times, things like that, much bigger organisations, bigger media products, and be on IMDb and such and so forth. But obviously a smaller short film obviously doesn't have a big production company, doesn't have a big budget, doesn't have a big marketing team, and so it wouldn't have the kind of publicity that has, and it's not on the same medium either. So short films are always on YouTube and things like that, typically Vimeo, and so the audience is different. They're appealing to different people, and they're not gonna believe it's not gonna entice people to go onto YouTube to look for it if you're selling it like it's gonna be in the next cinema near you, if that makes any sense. So obviously that difference in medium creates a different tone for each poster, totally different audiences and demographics that they're aiming for. And also things like age ratings. Feature-length films have big age ratings because obviously they're very specific. They've got a lot of time been put into making it to say, this is who we want to watch it, this is who we think will like it, and this is how we'll allow them to watch it at their best, and this is why no one else can, or like no one under that age can. Whereas for a short film, it's online, it's open for everyone really, whether appropriate or not, because we don't have much control over that once it goes out. But obviously we can target an audience, an age range, which would be around our own for this film, about 17 to 20, 25, and hope that they all see it, and that's what it aims for. But it can be that younger people or older people can enjoy it as well, because you can't, with a short film, you can't narrow it down so much that you can't have anyone enjoy it but a single person, because it's such a low budget film. You don't have the choice for that. You have to just allow as many people to enjoy and watch it as you can. You have to make a story, a narrative that everyone will enjoy, and you've got to make the poster that reflects that and that entices that type of person to want to watch it, because that's your aim. And a feature-length film is much more specific. We can aim for 17-year-olds bang on, because we've got the budget to make sure our film does that perfectly and advertises it to just them perfectly. So things just like that, different medium, different budgets, different production companies, all that kind of the big league stuff on there. And also the design, a lot more going on in the designs, a lot more complicated, they can be, and a lot higher budgets. They have entire days to shoot stills very professionally and use big sets to shoot stills that suit their film better, whereas we don't obviously have the budget for a big set that we can shoot some stills on for the poster. And so that's another thing, we've got to shoot kind of in situ when we do our poster images and kind of make do with what we've got, whereas they have that budget to create what they need and when they need it.